Have you ever considered how a microscopic organism could bring humanity to its knees? It seems almost inconceivable, doesn't it? Yet, in the 14th century, an unseen enemy did just that. Our story begins in the bustling trade routes of Asia, where life thrived and commerce bloomed. The Silk Road, a network of trade routes, was the lifeblood of commerce, connecting the East to the West. Goods, ideas, and cultures flowed freely along these routes, shaping civilizations and fostering growth. But within this intermingling of cultures, a silent killer was lurking, ready to hitch a ride to the farthest corners of the world. This silent killer was none other than the bubonic plague, a deadly disease caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis. Invisible to the naked eye, this bacterium was about to become the most feared entity of the era. The disease, known to us as the Black Death, found its unsuspecting carriers in the lowly rat. These rodents were common stowaways on merchant ships, and they unknowingly carried the seeds of the upcoming disaster. The actual vector of the disease was a tiny flea, which, after biting an infected rat, would become a carrier of the deadly bacterium. As merchant ships sailed from port to port, the disease was carried along, spreading its tentacles far and wide. With each stop, the rats would scurry off the ships, carrying their lethal cargo into the heart of bustling cities. The fleas, in turn, would bite humans, injecting the deadly bacteria into their bloodstream. In this manner, the Black Death began its relentless march across continents, sweeping through Europe with a fury that was unimaginable. The bustling trade routes, once a symbol of prosperity and cultural exchange, had become conduits for death. Thus began the darkest chapter in medieval history. A silent killer was on the loose. An enemy that was unseen, unknown, and unprepared for was about to bring humanity to its knees, forever changing the course of history. Imagine a world where every day brings only death and despair. This was the grim reality during the reign of the Black Death. The plague was an indiscriminate killer, snuffing out lives in every corner of society, from the lowliest peasant to the loftiest noble. The death toll climbed with staggering speed, reaching into the tens of millions. In some cities, up to 2/3 of the population perished within a matter of months. The symptoms of the disease were as horrifying as its death toll. Victims suffered from high fever, chills, and fatigue, their bodies covered in painful, swollen lymph nodes, or buboes, from which the bubonic plague derives its name. These buboes would turn black as they necrotized, giving the disease its chilling moniker, the Black Death. Medicine, as we understand it today, was in its infancy. Doctors clad in long robes, their faces obscured by bird-like masks filled with aromatic herbs believed to ward off the disease, were a common sight. But their efforts were largely in vain. Their understanding of disease was rooted in ancient theories of humours and miasmas, concepts woefully inadequate to combat the brutal reality of the plague. Treatments ranged from bloodletting and lancing buboes to more esoteric remedies like applying a poultice of chopped onions, garlic and butter to the afflicted areas. The helplessness of medieval medicine only added to the terror. The plague was a death sentence, and everyone knew it. Each day brought fresh horror as the death toll mounted. Bodies piled up in the streets faster than they could be buried, and the air was thick with the stench of decay. This was a world in which the spectre of death was a constant companion, a world where hope was as fleeting as a wisp of smoke in the wind. The Grim Reaper had begun its ghastly harvest. As the plague raged on, it did not merely claim lives, it tore at the very fabric of society. The Black Death, in its unstoppable march, brought about profound societal transformations. In the face of such an unfathomable catastrophe, people sought answers where they could, often turning to religion for solace and meaning. Churches swelled with the faithful, their prayers a desperate plea for divine intervention. The clergy, however, were not immune to the plague. Many succumbed to the disease, leaving their congregations leaderless and further deepening the crisis. But faith, in these dark times, was a double-edged sword. It was a source of comfort for many, yet it also fueled fear and superstition. Some saw the plague as divine punishment for humanity's sins, leading to a surge of fanaticism. Flagellant groups roamed the streets, publicly whipping themselves in a misguided attempt to atone for these perceived transgressions and ward off the disease. The fear and uncertainty. Yet, even in the face of such unprecedented calamity, the human spirit proved resilient. As the Black Death swept through Europe, communities found themselves on the precipice of desolation, but amid the chaos, the seeds of change were sown. In the face of this invisible enemy, societies banded together, adopting innovative measures to combat the spread of the plague. They understood that survival rested not only on individual efforts, but on collective action. This was the birth of what we now know as quarantine. Ships arriving from plague-ridden areas were isolated, their goods and crew kept apart from the populace for a period of 40 days. Beyond these practical measures, the plague also spurred a shift in the social fabric. The old feudal system, with its rigid hierarchies, began to crumble. With so many lives lost, labor became a valuable commodity. The surviving lower classes found themselves with newfound bargaining power, leading to improved wages and living conditions. This redistribution of wealth and power set the stage for profound societal transformation. The plague also spurred advancements in medical science. As the disease ravaged communities, physicians and scholars sought to understand its nature. They documented symptoms, studied transmission patterns, and attempted various treatments. While many of their theories seem rudimentary by today's standards, they represent a crucial step towards a more empirical approach to medicine. In the wake of the plague, a new era dawned. The tragedy had shattered old certainties, opening minds to new ideas and possibilities. The seeds of the Renaissance were sown in this fertile ground, eventually blossoming into a period of unprecedented intellectual and cultural growth. The Black Death, one of history's greatest horrors, inadvertently paved the way for a period of enlightenment. It taught humanity the importance of adaptability, resilience, and collective action in the face of adversity. From the ashes of despair, a new world began to rise. The lessons learned during those dark days continue to resonate, reminding us that even in our darkest hours, there is always the promise of a new dawn. History, as they say, often repeats itself, but it also teaches if we are willing to learn. The Black Death, a cataclysm that once brought humanity to its knees, whispers lessons that echo through the corridors of time, resonating in our world today. As we navigate our way through the labyrinth of modern pandemics, the spectre of the 14th century plague looms large, mirroring our fears and challenges. Yet it also lights the path forward, illuminating the wisdom gleaned from centuries past. The parallels are uncanny. Just as the Black Death was carried by rats and fleas along bustling trade routes, our contemporary diseases travel along the superhighways of global commerce and human mobility, revealing the fragility of our interconnected world. But the echoes of the past do not merely recount tales of despair and devastation. They also sing songs of resilience and rebirth. In the face of the Great Plague, societies found innovative ways to combat the spread of disease. Quarantine measures, the foundation of our modern public health strategies, were born in the crucible of the Black Death. The plague doctors of yore, donned in their beak-like masks, may seem a world away from our frontline healthcare workers. Yet, their spirit of service, their commitment to healing, resonates in every hospital, every clinic, every research lab today. And the greatest lesson of all? The power of unity. The Black Death, in its ruthless impartiality, reminded us of our shared humanity. It tore down the walls of division, uniting people in their struggle for survival. Today, as we grapple with modern health crises, this lesson rings truer than ever. No country, no community can stand alone. The fight against disease is a shared endeavor, a testament to our collective strength and resilience. The echoes of the past continue to shape our present, reminding us of our resilience and our shared humanity. The Great Plague may be a grim chapter in our history, but its lessons, its echoes, continue to guide us, offering wisdom and hope in our journey towards a healthier, more resilient future.